to the Rooted Connections podcast. It's your girl, Uju.
Welcome, everyone. This is Pam. How have you all been? I hope you've had a lovely week. It's been an amazing week, I think.
Amazing. Oh, okay.
For me.
Okay.
I'm changing.
There's a trend here. I'm loving it.
I'm changing my life.
You see, I'm rubbing off on you. Wow, the daggers.
Hey, don't take credit for it.
Wow.
You're trying a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But for real though, it's been an okay week. An interesting week as well. Because I'm getting round to the idea that I'm going to have 2 children in secondary school.
I don't know how to laugh, how to cry, all of them together. How are they so big?
I know.
Do you know what? To me, going to secondary school was hard enough. Now, Tony as well. That's just a reminder that my child is going the year after.
And if you start this, we'll probably just finish the podcast. But just on a very quick note, it's just there's a massive shift between primary and secondary school, which you will come to find.
For real?
It is crazy. But anyway.
Good shift, bad shift.
I think it depends on the child.
Right.
But yeah. Anyway. So guys, we have a fantastic guest today. See?
Ooh.
We listen. We don't judge.
You are this, we listen, we don't judge.
I don't know. I love it.
To be honest. Well, I listen. I judge sometimes, depending.
No, I don't judge. I'm open-minded.
Well, I'm a magistrate, so I judge.
But honestly, we have a guest today. My dearest friend, Gina.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Georgina.
Hello.
Thank you. But yeah, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate your time. So Georgina is like my social work sister. We've been through so much together.
Yes.
We stayed at training together. So many laughs, memories.
Yeah.
And we're still doing it together. Even
Strong.
though she has refused to work in the same local authority as me, but we always call and have our reflections and rants together. So yeah, really, I know how time is precious. So thank you for making the time to come today.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Georgina Ayeni. I'm a social worker. I work with children, safeguarding generally, with children and families. And I enjoy my job. I think I always enjoy working with children. So working in the social work field with children is something that I enjoy. Stressful, but I enjoy what I do. Yeah, that's me, really.
Yeah, that's not surprising, to be honest, because knowing Georgina, you just know that she loves children. We go to the same church and she works with the children's department, and I can see the passion to which she does that. Yeah. That's something that they are not even paying her to do. So I can't just imagine just how good she would be at being a social worker, because she genuinely has a heart for children. So you found your thing. That one
Easily.
That's for sure. I can say for sure. Knowing Georgina, you know that she's in her field. Okay, so on the podcast, we always start with questions or some sort of icebreaker, and today is no different. So Georgina, our question for you is, how did you maintain a social life after marriage?
Okay, so I think for me, when I got married, or when we got married, my husband and I lived separately initially for the first 2 years of our marriage. So it was still easy for me to still continue with my social life because it was not here. But obviously different, because I have to now tell somebody I'm going out. I have to now ask somebody to say, is it okay to do this? And having lived alone for years, I struggled with that initially. Why do I have to ask you? Why do I have to tell you? Why do I have to mention this to you? But then when we started living together, I made sure that I maintained my own identity. It's something I'm very heavy on, maintaining your own person, even though you're married, so that you still enjoy your own activities. You still enjoy some of the things that you do, even though it may be a little bit more curtailed now because all of a
It's
sudden
another
someone
person to
says that,
consider. Yeah.
why do you have to go? You went last week. You went 2 weeks ago. Why do you have to go out again? And I don't go to the clubs. I don't go anywhere. It's just maybe parties, just general, or just going out for a walk, even if that's something that you enjoy doing, or even reading a book, as simple as that, going to the park to read a book. But I feel like not giving it away altogether helps you to maintain your own identity, even in the marriage, your own individual person.
Yeah.
So I think for me, because it's something I'm quite heavy on, I try to maintain that and do the things that I enjoy, and sometimes incorporate it with what he likes as well, so that we're doing it together. But obviously, we will not always like the same things. So there's simple things that I enjoy doing, like going for a walk. I like cloud watching, so I just sit and watch the clouds because I love clouds.
Backstory. No, I have to say this. I remember when we used to drive, when we were
Yeah.
training, we used to drive, and I'm there driving, and this girl will put the window down. I say, please slow down a little bit, slow down. I need to catch that cloud. I'm like, catch which cloud? What do you mean you're trying to catch a cloud?
Wow.
And
Cloud
and
watching.
you dedicated a whole
I have a page.
Instagram page.
Yeah, I have an
this thing.
Instagram page.
So what does that do for you?
I think for me, it's really calming. It's therapeutic for me. I just love it. I just love cloud watching. I'm trying to take pictures of the clouds, put pictures together, do a collage and print it out of the pictures that I've taken of the clouds. So I do go cloud watching, and yeah. And
What's
I enjoy it.
your Instagram handle for the clouds?
Street cloudography.
Street cloudography.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
it's
guys,
taking
you need to
pictures
follow
of-
her. Street cloudography. So, rooted family. Let's show her some love.
Yes, please.
And you might find you enjoy cloud watching as well. So, let's show her the love. But it's interesting you say, I think you've touched on some very key things there where you said, for context, when you got married, your husband was based in Nigeria and
Yeah.
you were still based here because you
Yeah.
were living here originally, and it took a while for him
Right.
to come and join you here. When she said we were living apart, just to give that context. But I think one key thing that you touched on there, and I think it's something that a lot of us actually, should I say, we're victims of, is losing yourself when you get married, because with our cultural context, women generally, their life is all about the family. It's now that we're now learning to kind of have our own independent life and independent identity. So it's awesome that you were able to sort of set that tone and you're trying to maintain it, and you have a husband that is even supporting you to maintain that.
100.
This is me just being a bit nosy, but in terms of, because I find that dynamic very interesting that your husband came to join you here.
Yeah.
Did he have friends in the UK or
No.
no? So what's that like then? Because usually it's women who may have to make that shift where you have to then accommodate, even when you're living in the same city or the same thing. You find that you move to your husband's church. Your friends are now your husband's friends.
Yeah.
So the woman is the one that generally has to make that shift.
Give up things.
Yeah, but in
pretty
this
much.
case, he's had
The
to
opposite.
give up his life and come here. Has that been a big challenge, or
Yes,
it's been
yes.
seamless?
I think initially I didn't really understand the impact that would have on him moving here and sort of moving into my own space, so my friends are his friends, and it's almost like he didn't have to like them. He didn't have to know them. Automatically, these are my people.
You must
They're
be.
your people. This is my church. That's your church. This is where we live. I think initially he was saying, oh, should we move out of Leicester? And I didn't really understand it because I felt like for him, he wanted us to start from a place where
Start afresh, maybe.
we don't know anybody and we're building our own connections. And I said, no, I'm not moving out of Leicester. This is where I am. And I feel like he struggled with it. It took me years to understand that it did. I think initially he just went with the flow, but later on he started to have his own, but I don't really like this place, or I don't really want to be here. I don't want to do these things. And I struggled with that. Like, you have to accept my own things and people. But I'm understanding that it's different because culturally, naturally, I should be the one moving to him, and his people becomes my people, and that kind of thing. But then it's the opposite for us. But I think now I understand it.
Right.
It's not. It doesn't put so much pressure on me now. But initially it did. But now we've sort of managing it fine.
You found your happy place.
Yeah, I found my happy place, and I'm okay with it. If it doesn't want to be somewhere with me because it doesn't gel with those people, that's fine.
So there's that. I think it comes with time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It comes with time. I think that's it's the grace that you grant to each other in the process that also matters as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think ultimately it's understanding that, see, we love each other. This is our own space, and it's okay for you to have your friends, and I have my friends. And we may not all be friends, but we're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's maturity. Right. So moving on to our topic for today.
Yes. So guys, we've explored a little bit about this Jakpa movement, and for context, Jakpa means that people that have migrated or taken the decision to leave home. And when we say home, we mean for us Nigeria, but for other people, obviously people are migrating for many different reasons. But there's been this sort of almost an epidemic recently of a lot of families that have made that decision to move abroad. We've had a massive influx of people coming from Nigeria to the UK, to Canada, Australia. I don't know about Australia, but yeah, Canada, the US, there's been huge, but for context, we'll stick with the UK because we live here and we understand the system. And one of the questions that we've always had is this huge cultural shock for people, right? Where they move from Nigeria, there's a particular way of sort of discipline or raising children, family life, family dynamics, sometimes underpinned by cultural values or cultural beliefs, sometimes religious beliefs, or combination of all. And then you come here and the system doesn't necessarily align with those views. So a lot of people are struggling. And in some regard, which is why we've asked you to come here. So our topic today is really exploring the disparity in the systems, in terms of discipline for children over in Nigeria, and now coming over here and finding themselves in trouble because we've had loads and loads of referrals for families who have come here, don't understand the system, and their children have either been taken away from them or they're open to social services. So yeah, that's kind of what we're exploring today.
Okay, so my first question, I think both of you can answer it actually because it's your context. So growing up in Nigeria, did you find it difficult assimilating and becoming a social worker here because of the differences and the expectations?
I think having lived here for a long period of time before becoming a social worker, I already sort of know the cultural differences and expectations and what is allowed, what is not allowed. And I think having our course together, we did our degree together. Doing that, we were able to identify some things that, culturally wasn't acceptable for us, growing up as children, but here it's okay, or the opposite. So for me, it wasn't so much difficult during the course that would, but working as a social worker and then having families come in, I understand where they're coming from and I understand the system as well. And getting them to understand the system, that's the challenge. Getting those people to understand the system, because we're going to argue. We're very passionate people, but it comes off as very stubborn. So we don't listen. We don't listen. We don't want to know because we're stuck in our ways and we struggle to learn the new culture of where we've come to. So I think that families who are coming in now are struggling because I think when we came in, we're much younger. We didn't come in as a Jakpa. There was no Jakpa then.
Yes,
we came in to get to study. It wasn't because home was bad and we're running away. It was because we wanted to
something
study different. Yeah, but I think for this set coming in now, it is more of the system is bad. We need to Jakpa without wanting to learn the new system.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the struggle is for them. But for me, I didn't really have that struggle
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same.
It's similar.
Yeah.
It's similar. I came here as a student. I was very young. Of course, we've talked. We've done an episode on cultural shock.
Yeah.
So some of the things, but I think there's a huge difference between coming here as a young adult, without any children, husband. You're just here, and I think you assimilate the system better that way because, you don't have the added pressure.
Yeah.
I think. So understanding the society, I feel, came easier at the time that I was here.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that's probably helpful was I was already traveling anyway before relocating. So it wasn't like a huge, massive like shock to me. Do you understand? Like most summers were here. So, but then living here now obviously creates a different dynamic. So yeah, like you said, key point is we weren't running away. We made that choice after a while. I said, okay, well, actually, I don't want to go back. I want to stay. But you could have gone back without any issues. It wasn't the should I stay, should I go? It wasn't a matter of a sort of should I say economic drive. Yeah. So
Okay, so I'll twist it a slightly different way then. Does your culture affect how you do your job?
it helps.
Because the reason why I ask that sometimes is because and this is not just you, this is anyone who has to deal with some sort of public services. I was talking with someone who works in the prison service, and she says sometimes she sat there in prison and thinking, when you see someone that has come to prison and for what reason, and you look at the person's background, looking from it as a Nigerian, you're thinking, how you have all of this and you chose to do so? How did you get here? That this child just needs, and then the person will now come and be great. So your Nigerianness is, interfering a little bit in terms of, do you just need some just quick resets so that you can be okay?
Yeah.
So does that actually ever come up in when you're practicing?
Yes, it does. It does come up a lot because you see, I work at the moment with children in care, and you can see how entitled these children can be. I know that, they've experienced trauma, especially children who come in. I find that children who come into the country struggle more than children born here. So, for example, children in care. We have children who come, say, on the boat, who are unaccompanied children. They have a list of what they want. They have a list of things that, they're entitled to. They know it.
Wow.
Where a 16-year-old who just didn't want to leave her home for some reason comes into care, they don't have a list of what they want. They appreciate it. They're grateful for those things. And you're thinking, and I'm thinking, you've come all the way. You've come, through this journey. Why are you so entitled? Why are you so, why do you want, you can have those things, but you become sort of arrogantly expectant of, this is what I should have. This is what I should have. So my Nigerianness comes in like, what is wrong with you? You should be grateful that you're having all this, provided to you, not the other way around. So I think that, sometimes we would feel that way, like maybe just need a bit of reset. You just need a bit of reality check. And sometimes you're working with maybe children of mixed cultures, and you're asking parents, have you ever, considered taking this child back home for a week or two just to see their environment, the other life,
way of life,
to know what it is, to know what it could be. If dad didn't come here to struggle and give you this life, and mom is not white British, and you were born back in Africa, or somehow something happens, this is, this could be the life that you're living. Have you thought, I've done that before, have you thought about that? Because this child doesn't know that dad didn't have all of these things growing up, but they don't know. They don't know, but and then you cannot obviously enforce that. You can't even advise. You don't really talk much about it. It just depends on your relationship with family you're considering. But yes, it does come off sometimes, Well, you're then trying to, because a lot of families will threaten the children to say, I'll take you back to Africa, I'll take you back to Nigeria, or if you do this, I'll give you a slap and all those things. That is then causing another issue entirely. That's do you understand? That's
another level of trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the children. So a visit will not hurt as long as you're not going to hit the child there because you feel like the Lord allows it there, and it does, because the child will come back and say everything.
Of course.
Of course. I think that's a mistake we make a lot of times. We say to the children, don't go to school to tell. Don't tell. Children are very inquisitive. What you are telling them not to tell
is what exactly they're going
to tell.
So that brings us nicely to the questions, right? So this thing you've just pointed out, is it a thing that there actually are more, or there's a disparity between how much referrals we're getting from Black children versus their counterparts?
I think generally, so looking at children in care, or even because I worked in the duty and referral team for like 2 years, we have more children referred to us from the white ethnic whites, Caucasian. But with the influx of Jakpa now, we're having more referrals from, not that they're the only ones, but, we're having more referrals from Black African families.
And what would you say, well, both of you, is the prevalent cause of the referral?
I think for me, because I work in sort of safeguarding frontline long-term team, and I think one of the things I find is one of the causes is physical chastisement.
So that's a strong one of the strong
one that themes. Has to be physical chastisement and emotional abuse. So obviously, we have this. Georgina alluded to it earlier about when you threaten a child. For us, if you're not smacking that child, we say things like, for example, "Magba etie." Magba etie is a normal standard thing that we say without thought process to it, and just sometimes saying that alone resets the child. So for context, for those obviously who don't understand Yoruba, Magba etie means I'll give you a slap. Now, for many Black African, or should I say Nigerians, who say that, you're not saying it because you genuinely want to slap your child. Yeah. You're saying it because for you it's the warning that should help that child to reset themselves, align their behavior, and do what's necessary. And sometimes some of these children, innocently, especially those who have just come from Nigeria or wherever, they go and have these conversations in school very innocently, not because they are meaning to tell on their parents. It might just be conversation. Oh, my mom said she'll slap me, or my mom beats me. I've had a referral before where it was like, oh, my mom beats me. But when you unpick that, now for me, I would say why it's a gift that I'm Nigerian. So I have I can see from two lenses. Yeah. Again, Georgina said that earlier. The lens of I get the culture, I understand, so I can relate. But at the same time, you also need to know where you're going. And I think that's where there's that issue. You also need to understand the system you're coming into. What is accepted discipline in Nigeria isn't accepted here. Yep. And that's where a lot of people are struggling. Is that finding that balance of, this is how we parent. How dare you tell me how to parent my child? It works. For us, it works. So how are you telling me that I can't parent? And because they don't know, they don't have any other way of parenting, because that's what they're used to.
Okay, so I get physical chastisement or punishment or what have you is the most common.
It's one of the, I would say, definitely.
And I think domestic abuse as well.
Oh yeah,
we don't see the arguments. Mommy and daddy argue, and the children can hear it or see it. We don't see it as a problem because we're just having a misunderstanding. You understand? I'm doing it for you, or something like that. We don't see it as a problem. In UK, it's a problem. Yeah. Children, even if they hear it, it also has an impact on them. And I think another big one is neglect, especially around leaving the children home alone
when you go
to work, because I have to work, we have to pay the bills, and it's a big thing. People still do it every day.
Yeah.
And they don't see a problem with it. And they come out and, some people come out and if you go on TikTok, there are different live shows now. And people just come and talk about how they're struggling and how they're surviving in the UK and openly talk about, oh, when I go to work, can I leave the children home alone? No, you can't. And then they're asking about what age can I leave the children home alone? Even there is no specific age, but sensibly, you know what age not to leave your child home alone. Especially, if the child's got needs as well and those things. But then I think that the top one is physical chastisement.
Yeah.
Um,
To be fair, now that you've mentioned this, I think domestic abuse is actually quite a big one too.
yeah.
It is. And it's again things that are accepted culture in Nigeria. A man, it's just now that there's a lot more awareness around domestic abuse. So now some of those things that we even growing up, we didn't see as a problem.
Yeah.
A man beating a woman, in your head, it's not right. But we're not.
Right.
But we're not big on it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, in some
we're not
in
big,
some
it wasn't a
cultures it's
big-
accepted.
Yeah,
to be honest.
yeah.
And
because
even if you go to the police to report it,
the question
don't
they will
really-
ask you is,
in
what
Nigeria
did you do?
it's
did you
a
do?
domestic issue.
yeah, what did
Yeah.
you do?
What
Go
did
and
you
sort
do?
it out our own way, Oga.
They'll tell
That's
you to
it.
call your family members.
Yeah.
It's a domestic issue.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so but let's hit on that domestic abuse a little bit in terms of how it becomes a problem for the children. Because if the mother is not reporting, how then does it become an issue for yourselves, or that social services get involved? At what stage? Is it maybe the child has said something at school
Yeah.
that's, this happened at home, and not that we are not supporting domestic abuse in any form, any shape, but is there a threshold that then means that you get involved?
So usually the child will probably go to school to say that there's been an argument at home. Mommy and daddy are having, arguments of shouting or fighting, or we can get referrals from the police. A neighbor could
neighbor.
call the
Or
police
neighbors
to
will- yeah.
And sometimes some women, maybe when they're pregnant, they go for their antenatal, whatever, and they
Eczema.
ask you, they ask you questions, and you're being open about, how you're feeling. But then if you speak about obviously your partner and the way they speak to you, the way they talk to you, you're not happy, those kind of things can trigger a referral to us as well. If it's something that is concerning, if they feel that you're at risk or your child is at risk as well, they will refer to us. But I tell you today that domestic abuse families or families experiencing DV, they're the most challenging to work with.
Yeah.
Because they don't get it. And I understand when you're in that trauma bond relationship, you're experiencing it, you don't like it, but also, where do you get the help from? Who will take the children to school if I leave dad? Who would support me culturally? Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm upsetting him, So you take them to a refuge. By Monday, you come back to work, they've gone back home.
Because you're isolated.
You're isolated. Who is going to support you? And if you go to church, that's a different story. Church will tell you to pray it away. You understand? And all those kind of things. So the children, I think DV is so difficult to,
Separate.
evidence it as well for, for the children.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're so sad that parents cannot understand why it affects the child so much. Like, I'm not arguing with you. I'm arguing with dad. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I have a different perspective because I think that in my experience, even when there's now insight, I think one of the issues I have is we don't have a lot of culturally appropriate services, which makes it challenging.
I see.
So when the services, and I have to say that I think there's been a lot more effort now by some local authorities to now start providing culturally appropriate services. So you might find services that cater predominantly to sort of Asian women. I know we have some refuge, that they would have women that speak specific languages, because you can't put an Asian woman or an African woman in a refuge that is where the services are predominantly Western. They they can't function there. You're telling them to take their children. They have no, you're isolating them for what is normal for them. Especially when, again, putting into context, you're already isolated. You've left home, I mean, back in
where you
wherever
came
you're coming from. So you're already isolated. And now you're asking me to be further isolated in a service that I don't understand what they're asking me to do here. But unfortunately, like you said, there's a threshold. And I find social services is a sort of crisis intervention sort of service in a way, where our responses are always like, it's a crisis. Yeah. So things go really wrong and then we respond. So it's almost like sometimes the threshold is like really high. But not because, maybe it might be that if things had been found a bit earlier, those things could have been addressed. But it's little things that build up that become a big thing. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So if, for example, there's been an argument, right? So within our service, there are like different stages. So we have what we call early help support. Early help support is for low level issues. Sometimes there's DV within that as well. So where the DV is not like physical, and it might just be that, a worker can be assigned to do. So they're not social workers. They're like support workers that can do some groundwork with them. But the truth is, as Black Africans or Asians, we don't seek that support at that level. The first time you might ever hear of an incident is when there's been blows.
Yeah, when it's now crisis, as you say.
Yeah. So I just feel like not having those culturally appropriate services makes it even more challenging. So it might not be that this person doesn't get that this thing is wrong. It might just be that the service isn't appropriate to address it. And unfortunately, we work with timescales. So if you're not doing, I tell you, you have to work with this domestic abuse service. You don't work with that service. I don't have time to explain to you. The next step is we go to legal, we escalate it, the child is taken away from you. The court process also has timescales. So we go to court, we have it should be about 26 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Within that time, we give you this, and this to do. Or actually, there might be assessments first that you have to. So there's a lot that comes into play that I feel sometimes even fails these families.
So do you would you think should be providing these services for families? Because I feel like maybe we are not going out as well creating these services. Do you understand? Because if, for example, Women's Aid, it's it's there. We need to apply. So we had a training for is like safe families, working with young people. And then we asked the question, do you have ethnic minority workers who can work with our families of ethnic minority groups? And the answer was, we're not having applications. We're not getting applications from them.
Oh, wow.
We're going to only employ the people that we're getting applications from. They would want to have it, but they were all white Caucasians in that team working with families. So we are also not going forward to apply for these positions or to do this job. So obviously there's going to be the difference. Yeah.
That's such a powerful thing that you just said there, because I think we can very easily, if we're not careful, fall into that victim mentality where it's like, oh, they are not providing what we need. That's why we are always struggling.
Yeah.
But what are we doing as a community to actually make sure that these services are provided for us? Are we shouting? Are we holding the people who are supposed to do these things to account? How many of us even know who our local councillor is? How many of us even know who are the decision makers for these services? We're quiet. And then it's only at crisis point you then realize, oh, there's no service that is tailored to me. Hang on a minute, you didn't engage with the services from the very beginning. So that's an action point even for me. That's something I'm learning, myself. It's not a secret. I've mentioned it on the podcast as part of the reasons why I signed up to be a magistrate in the first place, because it's one of those things that actually it was, and specifically family court, because everyone I know that had to go to court, you're always so scared. Oh, they will not understand me, they will not get it. But they wouldn't get you because there are not a lot of us on the other side of the table. So we need to stand up and be counted. And I'm glad that there's people like you who are actually social workers now, who understand these families, who are going to be able to stand up for them and say, actually, you guys are missing something here. There's a context you're not getting. This is not a bad parent. This is a misinformed parent. Because I think there's a big difference there.
There's a huge disparity. And then don't get me wrong, there are some families that, sometimes you almost feel like you're hitting your head on a brick wall. You're hitting your head on a brick wall, But genuinely, it's very hard. It's hard for families who have made that decision to leave and find themselves in these really difficult positions where, they're working with services. And it's quite scary. It's quite scary working with social services. So you kind of get very defensive, where if somebody's knocking on your door and telling you, your first thing is you're a bad parent. That's how it's seen, So your guards are up. You don't want to hear what this person has to tell you.
Especially if it's for something that you feel you haven't done, where you've been kind of misrepresented.
Yes.
So I think my next question for you is sort of double barrel. So the first bit of the question is sort of how, if you find yourself that you have been referred to social services, what do you need to do? Is it answer that first, actually, before I get into the next bit of the question. What do you need to do?
So usually it's consent based initially. So if most of our referrals will come from school and police. And school, that's a different conversation, because school sometimes do not have very good understanding of the families and where they should provide the initial support. Sometimes we feel like we're getting very low level referral.
That's school matter. Let's leave it. Let's pack it for now.
Well, we're going to get to it in this episode, actually, because it's one of my questions. But go ahead.
So usually school, or they will ask families for to refer to us, and at that point you may refuse to say, oh no, but it depends on what the concern is. However, when we've gotten a referral, we would contact the family and speak to them. And like Pamela said, your guards are up. I wouldn't want a social worker. As a social worker, I wouldn't want a social worker knocking on my door.
It's even worse.
That is worse. But then even a family member calling to say, I know the fear, I know the anxiety that families face with social workers. So instantly you're already worried, because your first thought is they're coming to remove my child.
Yes.
And sometimes I tell families, I say, hey, I'm here to support you. If I come to your house knocking to say I'm coming to remove this child, call the police on me. That's what I tell you. So if there's no court order, or the police don't come with, to Section 20 to remove PPO, to remove PPO, police protection order to remove your child. Don't let me, I can't take your child. I don't have orders to take your child. So at this point is to support you to prevent us from getting to that point.
Please, just to add to that, I always say as well is I would actually prefer not to.
Honestly.
Because the work involved, and I think people don't understand this, and I think it's really important that, we get this out there. As a social worker, one of the worst aspects, apart from the emotional impact it has on you, because you're separating that child from the parent, number one. But apart from that, the administrative part of it is crazy. The paperwork involved, things that I would rather do what I can
to support
everything I can to support you to be able to care for your child and remove your child from that child from the home. It's really stressful.
Yeah, and we know that there is risk in putting a child in care.
Oh, yeah.
It's just you weigh the risk, which is greater, which is, which is a safer one, whatever. But then, so I think at that point is to listen to what they have to say. Listen to what the social worker has got to say and share your views. One thing I always say is don't be aggressive.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in you trying to be passionate, like I said earlier, in you trying to be passionate, you can come off as very aggressive. And some professionals hold on to that.
Yeah.
She was shouting. Pamela will tell you, a social worker has got powers in the way they write.
Yep.
Do you understand?
Yep.
I can write it in such a way that, we don't do that. It's evidence based. When you're going to court, it's evidence based, isn't it?
And the threshold is really high as well.
For you to go, you just don't go to court because you hit a child. That's not a thing. So I think because we're so scared, we don't let that process take its course.
Yes.
Listen to what they have to say, engage with them. Yeah. And initially it's consent based as well, but it depends on what the concern is. We can escalate it beyond, you giving consent. If we go to a meeting, I don't want to be saying terms. If we go to a meeting, we can override that consent because we have, if the concerns are great. So I think, and even at that as well, is working with the professionals. Seek advice if you're not sure. Ask questions, and be honest, be open and honest. I did this. It happens in Nigeria. I wasn't really. I'll give a little example. I worked with a family, FGM, Nigerian family, and school shouted, ran to us. This child has experienced, FGM, and the doctor was so upset. Like, how do you know? How did this 3 years? But the child says, I have wound. Wound in Nigeria is a scratch. This anything can be wound in Nigeria, but here wound is wound,
yes,
an open wound. And school says, yeah, well, we saw it and described it. Eventually, the child had not had FGM, but we put them through that process to went to CP medical.
Process, yeah.
To went to CP medical.
I think for FGM is even
a bit more
because they have to check, the child.
Usually, the social worker will be there, but for this FGM, that one, we don't have to be there to be two doctors because it's too much for the child to go through. We put that family through that process, and because I worked with family, I told them, say, listen, tell me even if that has happened, yeah, it is protecting you, protecting your child. You understand? Because it didn't happen here, and it's not like you took the child back home to do it. So there's support available for you.
Yeah,
and we will listen to you. We listen, we don't judge. And sometimes we judge. Sometimes we judge.
we judge. Let's be honest.
We judge. Sometimes we do. But we support you through it. And that's what we want to do. But unfortunately, we put that family through all that process. And, the dad called me to say, I'm going to call school. And I said, listen, your child attends this school. Call them and explain to them that you're not happy with how they handled it. But be careful. Don't be aggressive. You can be angry. You can express your, upset.
Displeasure, yeah.
And but don't be aggressive. Hold it. Calm down and explain to them. They apologized to family, but it was something we could have avoided altogether.
Absolutely.
So I think that it's working with families, enlighten yourself, ask questions. If you know anybody who can support you, people have called me to say, oh, this has happened. God forgive me. Especially a man calling me to say, oh, this happened. My wife reported DV, this and that. What do I do?
So
Social worker.
Your wife? It's the question.
You understand? And then I now say that, one, I'm not the social worker. They could have had a strat. They could have been police intel on you. There could have been anything on you. I cannot really advise you on what to do. What I can tell you is ask questions, speak to the social worker, get involved in the case. Don't run away from it. Get involved with it, because what if he did it? What advice do I want to give him? I don't have access to your file. I'm not your caseworker. I can't check your file. The only advice I can give you is work and listen to what they have to say. So that's what I really have to say in terms of when we get, referrals of social work. It's a very stressful process, but it could be shortened if you engage. Yeah. I don't know if you agree, and Pam.
I agree. But on the flip side, because there's always a flip side. So I totally agree with you that, I think that fear causes people to behave quite irrationally sometimes, because, there's also that, I won't say it's a myth, but where you get, we've heard of how they take people's children away from them. So yeah, naturally your guards are up. But on the flip side though, I think that there's also a responsibility on you as a social worker to understand people's lived experiences.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes because of that lack of cultural, I don't like to say cultural competency because I don't
Awareness.
really believe that there's anything like cultural competency. I don't think people really ever get to that point where they're culturally competent. But cultural humility, cultural awareness, find out why. It's important because it gives context. Find out why. Why is this man acting the way he's acting? Because you then find out when you can understand people's lived experiences, it's easy to have that conversation with them. Where you can now begin to say, okay, I get where you're coming from, but can you please listen to me? As I've had that. I've had where, initially, a family I worked with where the dad just didn't want to know. For context, was Asian Indian, and he just didn't want to hear anything I had to say. But I had to use my sort of Nigerianness because there's some similarities there. I was like, look, where I'm from, these things happen. I understand why, because back in India, probably this is the norm. But here it's not the same. You can't be hitting your wife, you can't be shouting, it's wrong. And from that point on, from this person not wanting to even speak to me, now he's sending me messages, now we're communicating. So I can't tell you that I totally understand Indian culture. I don't get it. But I feel like at least to some degree, I can understand, I can relate. So in as much as I have the responsibility as a parent to work with, because you will find interestingly that even the ones that are genuinely working with, because a social worker is already biased. They're not listening. So you can be doing everything you're being asked to do, but you're not being seen or heard. And that's where there's a difficulty. So the responsibility lies both ways, I think.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I agree. I think we're not very open to wanting to know. So for that dad, you got it. You got him, and you understood what he was saying. And I think he just wanted someone to tell him that, yes, I know you've done, maybe
Not to feel judged.
not to feel judged. I see you, I hear you, and I know it's difficult, I know it's challenging, but how do we move from here to? And I think that's what maybe some social workers don't have. And I think sometimes as well, the managers are top. They're not out there on the field.
Get it.
They don't get it sometimes, and it's what you go back to say to them, and they panic. But then this family, you're seeing them, you're building relationship, and you're working. And I think that maybe we social workers, we have more to do as well in terms of understanding how families work and the cultural differences.
And to be honest, I think maybe in some situations, it's probably in the best interest of the child to be removed
of course.
from from that. No, but let's be honest, it is.
There are cases where children,
because but I feel like for getting to that point, you just have to know that you have done everything.
So just if I'm hearing both of you right, and I think you hit some very critical things there, which is number one, the engagement, because sitting on it, looking at the case files, for example, in court, one of the key things that goes for or against you, I can say, is your engagement with the services. I've seen cases that first looking at the file the first time, I'm thinking no chance these parents are going to keep these children. But because of the work that they have done, the results of the work that they have done, then they get it put on a child in need plan. So they're actively, and what we can then do is say, even when social services say, okay, we'll do 6 months, say no, it's a year. Because of where they are coming from, we can then say, no, you have to support them for longer. Because I think that's the critical thing, that's engagement. And what people don't understand, I think, from the other side, which drives this engagement, is so important in what you said there, is that the ultimate aim is not to remove your child. The ultimate aim is to try and find the best, safest thing for that child. So if you work with them, and it's not to say that there are people who aren't biased. I'm sure there are people who are out to get you. There's bad apples in every profession. So you will encounter that. But I think the vast majority of people are doing the work because they genuinely want to help your child. The vast majority of people are trying to help. So being aggressive, I know it's in our nature.
And please,
we
don't
talk with
get
so much
We
passion.
don't get bonuses for removing children.
We don't have places to put them. We don't have space.
Yeah, there are like so many. There's so many myths out there that social services get bonuses when they remove children.
Wow.
We don't. We don't actually get any bonus. If anything, it's sleepless nights. It is.
That is true, because it's such an emotional toll knowing that a child has been removed, even though it's for the best in most situations where that has happened.
And oftentimes, some families get to have the children back.
Oh yeah.
In their care.
If they do the
If
work.
they- if they do-
if they do the work.
No,
They
like,
make
yeah,
changes.
that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. In this sort of situation, I've seen women who took drugs when they were pregnant.
Yeah.
So you will think that is an automatic removal. But because this woman has fought and engaged, they put her in mother and baby units, and she's done everything that has been required of her.
Yeah.
And she has, she's abstained from the drugs for so many number of months. They now feel comfortable to allow her go back into community with her baby. So it's not an automatic thing. Yes, the damage has been done. You've done the wrongdoing, but if you show evidence that you are cutting off from the people that have, because that's another thing. You cannot now say, I want to stay with the same drug addicted boyfriend and live in the same drug the area that was causing you to, so you've made the necessary lifestyle changes. It does happen that you get to, keep your child.
Yeah.
It's just a lot more work.
Yeah,
it's
it
just
is
a lot more work at that
more
point. But with commitment, you can and willingness.
Sustain change, because that's what we also need to see. We need to see that, because some people those changes are superficial. You're doing it just because you need services to go away.
Yeah,
you
true.
know. But for us, we have time. In some cases we have time, and when I say we have time, it doesn't necessarily mean it stays with the same service. It just means that it goes from this service where you get the initial help, and if you're not engaging, it moves on to the next service, and then that's how the children go into care. And that's what I mean by there's time. Unfortunately, that time is not for you. That time is for the child.
100%. And I think the one caveat we need to put to this is, if what you have done is a criminal offense, all of this, the amount of work you put in, it doesn't apply. If you have committed something that is a criminal offense, everything we have said doesn't apply. That is a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's then touch on schools. Now, this is something I have in my mind, but I don't know if you are seeing this in practice, that I think schools are not necessarily equipped with the burden that has been put on them. So we are then getting over referrals, because we've had so many cases of children who their outcome has been very poor. I will use baby P as an example, or people who have been going to school and the school missed it. So because of that, everyone is now, schools particularly, are panicked. So once they hear any little thing, they are referring. So, but I feel like it's perhaps because schools are also not equipped with the tools to be able to, like, when it comes to you, you have a set list of questions that you need to ask to know what needs to be put forward or not
To complete your assessment.
assessment, but is it just in my head, or is it a thing that there's now such a high level of referrals from schools, and why do you think that is?
I think simple. It's just easier to put the responsibility on somebody else. Yeah, it's easier that way. I've heard this. I think I'm worried. I'm not sure. I don't know. You know what? Let's just make a referral. Social care can make that decision. I think it's just an easier option to take. And sometimes genuinely they don't know, really. I think there was something suggested for my team is to complete a training, social workers and schools or head of schools, just so that we both understand the threshold of things and they can provide low level support for families as well, rather than making referrals. But then they can have it on record, so that if things happen in future, we've provided support for this family And then at this point, we felt it was appropriate to refer to social care. But I think that generally it's just out of fear of things like BBP, this recent baby, that's this girl, I don't know her name, that's just passed away, the 10-year-old girl.
Is it Germany?
Is it Sophia, something like that?
Okay. Oh, no, yeah, that one, yeah.
And then, being told that school was aware that something was happening, they didn't make a referral, so school too, they're not sure.
Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah, yeah, they're not sure, like, at what point do we refer to social care? And then it comes to social care, and I think initially sometimes the incoming, is it, what are they called? Not MASH.
Front door.
Front door MASH. Sometimes, I think previously, the people working in MASH were not social workers, and they didn't have the understanding or the experience of safeguarding, and then they were taking in all the referrals. So we were working with everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. But schools, I think that they sometimes don't have an understanding as well of cultural differences. I think they panic working with Black African families. If they see a mark on a child and the child says something without asking mom, without speaking to families, and we know that families would lie sometimes, to protect themselves, they're referring to social care instantly, So I think that is out of fear. I don't know, Pam, if you agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've covered it all, to be honest. Those are the factors that I find as well. First is the fact that they don't understand the culture. I think that's the biggest thing there. Because it could happen similarly to a white child, where they would speak to the school might even have a good relationship with parents.
Yeah.
So the teacher might feel, oh, I saw this and this, or I noticed this and this. So then, okay, so now that parent has given context, then you feel, okay, it's actually not concern, except obviously this is a real disclosure that the child has made, clear disclosure. But for a Black African child, we even find cases where the child wasn't even spoken to. The child has just said something out of context, or and sometimes they ask leading questions to children.
Yeah, and we don't do that.
So we have to, in our assessments, we have to make sure that we're not asking leading questions. But with schools, they ask leading questions. So the child might just be, oh, my, for example, oh, my mommy beats me. So that sounds really bad, right? Oh, how does your mommy beat? Oh, my mommy has a cane that she uses to beat me.
Sorry, this sounding bad.
So it sounds really bad. But when you as a social worker, you go in and ask questions, you find that, when you get a referral come through, I don't know about you, you get a referral come through on paper, in fact, you're already thinking this child cannot even, this child cannot stay in the house. But when you go in, and that's the beauty of our work, you go in, you need to be open. That openness to just hear and provide context. Okay, so this is a lack of understanding. This is a lack of not knowing, not because this parent doesn't love the child. It's just that there is, because you go into the house, beautiful house, the children have everything. Why would you want to take a child away from that family? Has foster care any better? It's just that one factor that needs to be addressed. So hone in on that thing that needs to be addressed and work with the family to address it. And you're right. If schools are better equipped, some of these referrals don't need to come to social care. They're addressed there and then.
I'll give an example. Yeah, I had this family I worked with, and school made a referral, really bad referral. My manager says, you know what, Georgina, go into school, speak to this child first. Oh, they say you need to come with an interpreter because this child wouldn't speak. So I got to school. I said, where's the wound on this child? Where's the injury? I said, well, can you see it? Can you see it? I'm like, I can't see anything. So the child says the mom used an implement, used something. So I tried speaking to the child. Child wouldn't speak to me. So I gave the child a paper and a pen to write. And just says, oh, I had something on my face and mom cleaned it and it hurts me and mom tried to help me. So when, after I said, okay, I'll go home, see the family home and speak to mom. We started out of school, this child started to talk. Speaking English, talking like, I'm like, why don't you speak in school? Because I don't like them.
No.
I won't speak. And child says, I had a pimple on my face. I peeled it. Mom used cotton wool to use Dettol to clean it. So the implement was the cotton wool. The pepper thing was the the tour. And as soon as we got to the house, child brought everything to me and says, this is it, this is it, this is it. And it was real, But the way schools made that referral, you would think they've used the dagger on the child. They've used it, it was really bad. And mom was really upset about it. Like,
it is upsetting. Yeah.
Do you understand? So sometimes we have referrals like that you probably close in a day or two because you realize that
action.
If only they had asked those questions right, and not think, why is this child not speaking in school? This child can clearly talk. Why using interpreters with the child when the child can speak? So
that
it's
blows my mind. There is so much to unpack in that story. I don't think we have the time on this episode to do that, because how can a child be going to school and not speaking, and the school are aware that this child is verbal? It's not like the child is non-verbal, that the child is not speaking in school.
Yeah.
There's so much to unpack there, but I think, Georgina, we're going to have to bring you back, because we need to, there's a lot to go into. And I think the foster care system is another thing I think we need to we really need to delve into, because I think there is a lot. There's so much that goes good and goes bad in that system. So that's something you're coming back to talk to us about. But it's been such a delight to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For so long. So I'm glad that we finally done it. So thank you for coming. And
Thank
I hope
you for having me.
You guys have learned a thing or two, about the social care system for those that are, moving. And, like you said, it's a two-way thing, but you also have your homework to do. So make sure that you understand the culture you're coming to. Not everyone is out to get your children or get you. So just engage if you ever find yourself in that situation, and be open and honest about it.
Ask lots of questions. There's no shame in saying you don't understand, which I think is another thing that I've heard from what you've both said here, is ask lots of questions. And this doesn't just apply to people who have just moved. If a social worker knocks on my door right now, I'll be very confused. So ask lots of questions, and ultimately they're there to support you. And that's the key message here. Social workers are not, as you said, they don't get bonus for taking your children. So I hope we've learned a thing or two. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe.
Until next time.
See you later. Bye.